people probably pop in.
All right.
Yay. I'll give you a little intro. So
Sounds good. I see some familiar faces.
yay, yeah. Hey everybody. For those of you who don't know, this is Jason Lewis. Jason Lewis is one of my favorite people, and it's a little scary because I think him and I have a very similar brain. So something may explode if we're in the same room together. I don't know. But Jason is the brains behind Creation Utah, really successful flipping company, wholesaling company, and Investor Machine. And what I think is really interesting about working together and having him come and present is it's really tactical. I tend to be really tactical too, strategic. So I really like Jason, but he brings a lot of.
We talk about the stuff of real life.
And a lot of.
I'm making fun of you.
No, I'm saying we make fun of it.
Oh yeah.
But it's true.
It is true. I mean, what else are you gonna do but laugh at it because it's so absurd? It's bizarre. What are they cutting?
I can't help.
I'm not
but
gonna
reading
ask what they're
this.
coming up with next.
I don't want to know.
I don't want to know. Right.
Oh, okay, Garcia. There we go. Anyway, Jason brings a lot of operations and data to the table, and I'm super pumped to hear what you've got to say and what we can learn from you. I always learn so much every time we talk. So I'm super excited that you're here with us, and thank you so much for presenting to our group.
Awesome. So the requested topic was data and operations, and I've got presentations on both. So I'll take it to a vote. Do we want to hit data first, or do we want to hit operations, like hiring and keeping your team first? The first one invariably we wind up going a little bit deeper on. I've got a vote for each. Anybody else have a preference?
I'd go for operations. I just don't know where you're taking this poll. Oh, in the group chat.
In the chat. All right, we're gonna hit operations first, and then I'll come back. All right, starting with part 2. So this was actually pretty timely. You guys can see my PowerPoint. Okay, so this was pretty timely. This was an article I saw this morning on Fortune's website. Great Resignation shows no sign of slowing down. 40% of US workers are considering quitting their jobs. Here's why they're going. Fewer reverting to traditional office jobs, growing numbers seeking non-traditional roles, side hustles, opportunity to start a new business, etc. So, we had this period of the Great Resignation fairly recently, and recent studies and everything that they're doing to research into this are saying, hey, Great Resignation hadn't slowed down at all. But the reasons are a little bit different before. Previously, a lot of the Great Resignation was people got used to working from home, and then companies were like, all right, come back to the office. And people were like, yeah, no, I got used to working at home. I'm not going back. That was one of the primary contributors. One of the big contributors now is inflation. Does anybody know offhand? I should look this up. I think the percentage of people that live paycheck to paycheck is like 40, 50, 60% of all Americans. Think about it. Cost of living has gone up 10% recently. So if everybody is paycheck to paycheck, cost of living has gone up 10%. People, even if you look at it, the amount that credit card debt went up, that's something that they track is national overall credit card debt. If you look at the amount that credit card debt went up last month and the month before, it was like all-time high increases. So we in a shifting market and everything else need to make sure that we're going above and beyond to retain our A players, keep our staff. Otherwise, there's little that affects a company more negatively that I've found than consistently turning over A players and staff and things like that. So that's what I'm going to go over here for the first half, is how you keep your talent, how you keep your A players. So one challenge with this, especially for us, there you go. Kay Garcia says it's 70% of those making 25 to 100K, and Billy Ross is 66% of people are
ready?
Paycheck to paycheck.
Because
So-
you have free shipping since you have Prime, is that correct?
If you There we go. If you take and average that out, so as people get younger, their likelihood to move becomes more and more and more likely. Baby boomers move jobs every 7 years, Gen X every 5, millennials 1 to 2 years, and Gen Z is looking to be even worse. So statistics aren't in our favor. Imagine, look over everyone on your team and imagine if this is true, 4 out of 10 of your people are considering moving another job. While we were in this meeting, I had one person, not an A player, but one person from my investor machine team get fired that I know is actively looking for another job as well. So even us, we're not immune to this either. So the younger people are, more likely they are to move.
Jason, we're interviewing here too, like across the board. And I'm finding this so true. And when I point this out in an interview, I'm like, hey, you have a lot of movement on your resume. Like people are like, no, what do you mean? I spent a year there. Like it was a long time.
Right. I was there for a whole year. What are you talking about?
Whole year. You know what I suffered?
Right. Exactly. So cost of that.
Promoted 3 times in that year.
That's right. That's right. And we're going to talk about that. So this turnover can cost, depending if it's a simple role, it can be 20% all the way up to 213% of salary cost, depending on how quick this person is to train. Again, 24% of the total workforce turned over in 2019. 40% planning on turning over in 2021. And as I just said, in 2022, most recent studies we're still sitting at 40% in 2022. And I feel like, our industry, we lean towards hiring the younger rather than the older, right? Like by raise of hands, how many people in here, the majority of your workforce is a baby boomer? No hands are going to go up. Maybe. Well, Daniel, the majority of his work. Oh, no, he changed his mind. All right. I'm going to bet
I still don't know the difference between baby boomers and millennials.
So we'll say over the age of 45 to 50. If the majority of your workforce is over 45 to 50.
No.
Most of us the majority of our workforce is 20 to 40. That's the millennial Gen Z. So this is taking into account the numbers of the older people as well. These people realize as well, like people are being hunted. It's a tough job market, and there's constantly people reaching out, especially to good quality people. I spent my first 5 years, I didn't introduce myself at all. Stephanie gave me a brief introduction. I am owner of 2 companies, Creation Utah. We do 100, 200 deals a year, mostly wholesale, but we do some of all of it. And then I have Investor Machine, 180 ish real estate investors that we do high level list building, data, and direct mail for. And between these companies, I've got over 100 people that work for me. Even and I spent my first 5 years working for someone else as an A player, and I would say there was not, and that was in a much less strong job economy, but there was not ever a month that went by that I wasn't given an offer. And when I was first getting this presentation ready, I asked some of my A players, like, hey, how long has it been since you got a job offer from someone else? And in almost all of them, it was less than a month. So realize, like, you keeping your people is a privilege and not a right. So I painted the stage initially with the ugly potential picture. Now let's move into pretty, what can we go do about it? So some of my successes, again, 100 people that work for me, been doing this 5 years now. And I've had very, very few people ever leave, including in the Utah company. 5 left, 1 came back. I've had very, very little turnover. And I mean, like, I've had people that have cold called for me now for 4+ years. To have the same cold caller that was born in America cold calling for 5 years, there's something that we're doing right. So I want to go over the culture and the specific things we do that lead to us having above average member retention. So the first is you got to hire right. I'm a big believer in personality profiles. I really like predictive index. That's probably not news to a lot of the people that are here. So the big reason why I like this is the idea of a personality profile is you find out where would people like to sit in their resting space. can I make it so that the work that someone does is naturally energizing to them? Using that cold caller as an example. She loves talking to people and loves doing the same thing over and over again. That's her dream job, right? I've got great news for you. I'm going to have you talk to people all day and you're going to read off basically the same script over and over again. And she's been set to do it for 5 years. I would go straight crazy if you asked me to be a cold caller for 5 years. I think I would be institutionalized at this point. But for her, it's great. And I know, and I can research that by seeing what someone's predictive index profile is. Anybody can adapt to do any job, but I like to make sure that people are in their natural resting space. I am a remote fan. Again, I've got over 100 people that work for me between the companies, and I have no office. Nobody reports to an office. I do, even my Creation Utah company, the vast majority of people that work for me live in Utah, but everybody works from home.
Did that change during COVID, or did you transition, like, it was always been remote?
It gave me a head start with COVID because I was remote before it was cool. Yeah. So I was remote from day one, and I chose to set up my company. The day I left the other company, I chose to set my company up to be an entirely remote company. Now, there's advantages and disadvantages to remote, and there are people that are in office and it works great for them. And I'm not saying you need to switch to remote, but I am saying that 60% of millennials would leave their job if they could work remote. And so that's just something that you need to be aware of. You know, that said, you know, I've talked with like my friend Cody Hoffine about this. And if you made Cody Hoffine and his team go remote, whole thing would explode, right? It's not his leadership style. It's not the way he is. He's much more social, extroverted, needs to have people around him, needs to feel like he's a part of a floor of people that's working to be able to work. So, and he does as much business in Utah as I do. So mine's not the only way, but I do have less overall turnover than he has. But I also hire specifically for people that would be able to thrive in a remote type environment. All right. By the way, Alan, your backdrops are always the best. Your one on Wednesday was classy. Your one today is classy. You're straight up in a sauna. Like, why not?
I love it.
All right. This one's big. A players like working with A players. So if you have a team of C and D players and you bring in an A player, you're going to hate it. Here's another big one too. You need to be an A player. And I know if I were to ask all of you individually, hey, are you an A player? That every single one of you would say yes. So you need to find out a way to objectively figure out, hey, are you an A player? And a good way to look at this is in your overall retention and turnover, and you know how much of it is people struggled with working for their boss. You need to develop leadership skills. Like, people aren't born natural leaders. They become leaders through taking courses. Darren Hardy has an awesome leadership course that I've been going through. You have tons of books on leadership. John Maxwell has written like 40 of them. They're all basically one rendition of the same thing. With different principles and things like that. Pick up at least a couple of them. But yeah, one of the ultimate things you can do is improve yourself, because it will improve your company. This next one has become even more important recently, and that is pay well. Again, cost of living just went up 10%. If all your people are making exactly the same, obviously with the market shifting and, you know, margins probably aren't quite as high, now may seem like a little bit of a scary time to be increasing pay. But you should be aware of, hey, if your people were paycheck to paycheck before, cost of living just increased 10%, you may be doing everything right. They may love the culture, they may love who they work with, they may love everything else, but if they can't pay their bills, they're going to be looking for another place that'll make it so they can pay their bills. So, you know, it can be a touchy subject to breach, but definitely that's something to look at. And that's one takeaway. Like, if you guys are writing down action items, something to do, it would be look at a pay analysis of where everybody's at as compared to what market rate is on your team. Make sure that people are at market rate, and potentially look at giving some raises in the name of retention. And then lastly, don't tolerate A players. Again, at the start of this meeting, we let someone go because they weren't an A player. They were doing fine. They were checking the boxes. They were okay, but they were bringing the rest of the team down. And even if you have to let them go too early and it's a little bit of a pain and everything else, the cancer that comes with in Darren Hardy's leadership thing, there's one where he beats on this for an hour. It's like, because he knows it's so hard for people to do. He just like hits it. Don't tolerate non-A players. Stephanie posted a link for what people can make. And one thing I will say too is I always like to look at least 6 or 7 of these. You've got PayScale, you've got Indeed, you've got Glassdoor, you've got, what there's like 10 different sites of what each different role should be making. And so I always like to get an average of them, because you'll have one that's like, oh yeah, this person should be making not less than 150. And then another one will be like 50 grand. So take the average of a few of them. All right, so some things that you cannot overdo as a leader to create a great culture. Number one is cast the vision. I'm guessing that the majority of people sitting on here are the visionary in their company. The visionary has a really important seat. In big companies, CEOs, visionary is just, that's your job. All day, cast the vision. People need to know, hey, where are we going? What's my place in this? How am I going to achieve my goals? Am I a part of something cool? I've had it happen, even though I preach this, I've had it happen to me more than 10 times that someone has asked me basically for the vision. And anytime I say, hey, I'm thinking, like in our most recent town hall, I'm thinking I'm going to go over where we're going, and where everyone's role is, and everyone's like, oh man, that would be awesome. I would love to know that. That's happened to me within a month, right? And I was like, oh, dang it, I failed again. Like, as much as you think you cast the vision enough, you have not enough. If I ask everyone on your team, what are your core values? How are you going to score? If I were to ask everyone on your team, hey, what's the company's 1-year goals? How are you going to score? If I ask them, hey, not only what are your 1-year goals, but what's your role in it? How does what you do matter to that? And then how are you going to benefit because of it? How are you guys going to score in that? The better you score in that, the better your retention is going to be. Number 2, praise. You cannot compliment, praise, and tell people that they're doing well enough. And it has to be more than ending a phone call with a, hey, just so you know, I appreciate you. I'm the king of that. I end every phone call with, I appreciate you. But like genuine, heartfelt thanks, random texts, all of that stuff to let people know that they're appreciated. Again, I preach this. I have preached this for years. And this is one that I also consistently fall short at. I recently did a employee satisfaction survey. I'm a big fan of those. They're really easy. You can create a Survey Monkey. You can do it in Google. Just ask a few questions and say, hey, how are we doing? Are you happy here? What are things you like most? What are things you change, etc. And in the survey, I scored in the Utah company, I scored overall really well besides praise. Even though I thought I was doing it plenty, everyone was still saying they didn't feel like they were appreciated enough. So another hack takeaway you could do, if this is something you want to focus on, take 10 paper clips and put them in your left pocket and say you cannot close out your day until you put all 10 of those paper clips in your right pocket. And you can move them to your right pocket when you've told someone they're doing a great job, or you appreciate them, or somewhere along the way of gave somebody praise. As much as you think you do enough, you physically cannot do enough. And I've got plenty of room to grow in this area as well. I really like this test as well. This is called the motivators test. So there's 20 different things and ways that people are motivated by. You've got learning, you've got growth, you've got money, you've got freedom, you've got, all of these different things. What it does is it takes and ranks the way your people are motivated by in order. And what's interesting is I had my key leadership team and both of my teams take this test. And most of them were motivated in the bottom 25% was almost what money came in almost all of my leadership teams. Which was interesting because all of my motivation tactics were around bonuses and everything else. Again, coming back to, we have to pay people well. People can't be worried about their next check, or they're paying their bills and things like that. But at the point that they're doing well enough, more money motivated very few of my people. What did motivate almost everyone was learning, growing, and opportunity to become the best version of themselves, which I'm honestly more motivated by as well. So when I got the results of this, we now do every Tuesday leadership training meeting, where this whole leadership team gets together with me. We bring in speakers and we just discuss leveling up them personally, them learning, growing, becoming better leaders, becoming better followers, becoming better, whatever the best versions of themselves are, as well as I know what each of their goals are, and I will bring in speakers and we'll discuss things to help them achieve their goals. If their goal is to own real estate, we talk at that point about owning real estate. And that is more motivating. A free Tuesday meeting for an hour and a half is far more motivating to that team than doing a $10,000 bonus for all of them at the end of the quarter. That's a lot cheaper than, you got 10 people, you can stroke $100,000 check that wasn't that motivating, or you can do this. Now, that said, your team may be way more interested in money and you could save a bunch of time in training your team individually, but you're not going to know unless you actually take and do the assessment on it. Okay, so I'm going to go over things that I do to motivate. And so one thing to realize about me too is I'm kind of nerdy with this stuff. Like, everybody has their reason, their core driving reasons why they do what they do, right? Like when you go to, I'm speaking at an event called $1 Million Meeting at the end of August, which is one where you get a bunch of the nation's best real estate investor speakers coming and talking on their topic, right? And typically it's the thing that they are just like so passionate about. Like, I've been at one in the past, there was a girl named April who's up there talking, and she lives for taking good care of her hard money lenders. Like, that is what she's so passionate about, and she takes great care of her hard money lenders. A big one for me is I spent 5 years working hey, Stephanie, real quick, is this being recorded?
Yes.
Okay,
Should we
good.
talk about it?
No, I'm great with it being recorded. I just didn't see the recording thing, and I know you wanted it recorded.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, actually, now I see it right there. It is being recorded. Great.
I thought you were about to have something like secret, like turn it off, Stephanie.
No. So at my last company, honestly, I didn't really want to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to work for someone else. I am more wired to work for someone else than to be an entrepreneur. But the only reason why I left was because the previous company owner didn't create a culture where I would stay. And so my big thing was I wanted to go and create the workplace that I always wanted to work for and have all the things that I wanted to have as an A player at the last company. So my disclaimer at the start is don't try to go do and implement all of these. Find one and go and do that. So first, when I am interviewing someone, this comes from Keller Williams. When I went out on my own, I started as I hung my license at Keller Williams. And so I have a lot of Keller Williams influence, and they're an incredible company and they have a lot of great systems and processes that I borrowed. One of the interviews that they do is what's called the motivation interview. So you take a piece of paper and you divide it in fours and you say, all right, Stephanie, I'm going to take it, I'm going to divide this paper into 4 pieces, and in the top, and what we're going to do is we're going to assume it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, however long you want to pick from now. We run into each other at the grocery store because I'm in North Carolina. And I say, hey, Stephanie, how have the last 2 years been at Creation Utah or Investor Machine? And you say, oh man, awesome. Like my last 2 years have been everything I could have hoped for that they would have been. They've been absolutely amazing. What needed to have happened in 4 areas of your life for it to have been everything happened that you wanted? In the top left, I'm going to put job. In the top right, I'm going to put money. Then you pick the bottom 2. It can be, lifestyle. It can be health. It can be family. It can be housing. It can be whatever. What are you hoping more than anything happens over the next 4 years in each of these areas? And then we talk about the job, and it's incredibly insightful to me to know what's this person looking for and hoping to achieve. But it's also helps me manage them to basically call it my job a little bit to help this person get what they're looking for. So this will help me screen out potential candidates, because you're bringing in someone to be an acquisition manager, let's say, and you say, okay, money, what's your ideal? And they say, man, if 2 years from now I was making 65 grand a year, I'd be the happiest guy on earth. I know I don't have a good acquisition manager candidate because they're going to get to 65 really quick and then they're going to be content. That said, if they say, yeah, if I'm not making $1 million within 2 years, I will be out because I really think that's what I'm worth. I also know I'm not going to be able to meet this person's expectations. So it helps me to be able to hire right, but again, also to be able to maintain and motivate, because it's like, hey, the reason why, your big thing is 2 years for, and one of my coaches who's actually a successful Keller Williams agent out of Florida does this really in depth as well. He dives in and he re-meets with his team every 3 months to say, okay, where are we at? Where are your goals? What do we want to do? What do we have to do to get there, et cetera? And he had one specifically like, hey, I need to make this money because more than anything in the world, I want a boob job, right? So like he drew on the whiteboard in her office 2 little mountains, and every time they talked about it, they had the number that they were working down to get to the boob job. But this girl knew that my coach was as committed. It's awkward because it's a boob job, but her boss was as committed to her boob job as she was. And they were on the same team working towards her goals. And that when he achieved his goals, she achieved her goals. So she showed up every day and gave it her all because his goals were her goals. And all she needed to do was help him achieve his goals. And she was going to get everything that she wanted. All right. I am a big believer in investing in my team's improvement as well. For a lot of my key leaders on my sales team, I pay for an individual MAPS business coach for them. So not only am I meeting with them on Tuesdays, but at some point during the week, they are meeting with a paid coach that's helping them level up and become the best version of themselves. If they're a salesperson, if it's a sales coach, my sales team is in Steve Train's sales training, in addition to John Martinez training. I'm a member of Collective Genius as well as Investor Fuel. And not only, for example, at Collective Genius, not only do they have, is it a mastermind for me, but also my COO can go to a mastermind call, my transaction coordinator can go to a mastermind call, etc. So big believer in investing in my team's overall improvement. Rental plan. So oftentimes the reason why people get into real estate is because they want to become financially independent, live the Robert Kiyosaki rich dad poor dad dream. So what I did is I created a plan, and I'm going to give this, I'm going to move over this far too quick, but we'll do it anyways. Basically, I take a rental and move it into a company that I give away shares to. If someone has worked for me for more than a year, then they at that point start acquiring shares, which is a percentage of what they earn. I take 10% of everything that they make and give it as shares in the rental company. And they, month over month, year over year, increase the amount of rental shares that they wind up getting. If you look at it, over a 30-year, 40-year period, at the time that most of these people retire, I wind up paying. So basically for every year they work, they get another year's salary from this rental retirement plan, and ownership and rentals, appreciation, cash flow, etc., without having to deal with all the headaches of, hey, plumbing broke, vacancies, etc. So they feel like, oh, I'm investing in real estate because I'm in here, rather than feeling like I have to go figure out how to buy a rental on my own outside in order to be able to really truly invest in real estate. So that's something that's been super well received by the team. And then last one, I'm really big on, and this is especially true of millennials and younger, as much as anything, they want to feel like they are making a difference in the world. There's a book called The Happiness Advantage. Awesome book. And in it, he talks about saving the whales, right? No matter what company you work for, you should make it so your team feels like when they show up every day, they are showing up in order to save the whales in whatever way. So, I will sit down. We'll do a meeting at least once a year, go over all the competitors' negative reviews, go over all of our positive reviews. We are the good guys. We are here to save, and every bad story we've ever heard about anyone else, wait until the last minute, canceled, etc. We are here to save sellers from having this experience. If we can just get to them first, we're going to save them. Terrible experiences with realtors, etc. In addition to that, I do a charitable plan. So with my charitable plan, welcome, Kirk. Good to see you. So with my charitable plan, every quarter we take and give to causes. And this has evolved and evolved and developed. Where I'm at now, I have found that giving is the strongest when I allow my individual members to choose where they direct the money to. So for example, in my Utah company, every time we have a closing, the key people that touch that closing get $100 towards that closing. I've also done it where I just give everybody a flat $100, $200, $300. Then I give everyone in the company the opportunity to bring a specific cause. And then everyone at the company gets to direct their funds to whatever cause they want. And they can be within one of the ones that was brought or even outside of the company. I've had people say, hey, my dad's going through a terrible time right now. I just need to give him the money. I've donated lots of money to dogs. Personally, that's not the first place that I would donate money to. Dogs are great, just wouldn't be my first choice, but it doesn't matter. That's what the team wants, what they love, and where they want to donate their money to. As well as I'm always trying to find a really good charitable cause that I can bring to everybody. So that's the one I've got right now is actually, so I served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Africa. And I have a friend that's in Zimbabwe that in his neighborhood, there's a whole bunch of kids that would love to go to school, but can't. Here in the States, public education is free. In Zimbabwe, you have to be able to pay tuition to go to school. Even like base level elementary school, you have to buy uniforms, you have to buy books, etc. So I actually had this member record a whole bunch of videos of kids in Africa saying, hey, my name's so-and-so. When I grow up, I'd love to be a doctor. I'd love to be a this. I'd love to be a that. That said, my parents can't afford to go to school. Would love it if you guys could help me out. So showed these videos to the team and said, hey, let's go send these kids to school. Costs $330 to sponsor a kid for a year. So I actually took it even a step further and tied it to, for every deal we do, we sponsor a kid in Africa. So then after we sponsor the kid in Africa, the kids, my friend down there sends another video with them in their school uniforms saying, hey, thank you so much for sending me to school. So excited. And it's going to be awesome. So I love it because it takes it and makes it real. We'll donate to Operation Underground Railroad. We'll donate to Feeding America, things like that. But it's really hard to see and feel that the money made a difference in this individual person's life and tied to this. That is why I am such a big fan of that specific plan, is because it ties individually to, and it keeps everybody committed to the cause because they feel like, hey, I'm showing up every day to go and do good in the world. So that is the operations, business, keep your key staff training. Any questions about that before I move into data?
I love this.
I have a question. Go ahead.
Hi, Brad. Lay it on me.
Hey, okay. First of all, on what you were just talking about, the money you're donating, is that a specific amount that you've allocated for each deal that you're donating, or is that something that the team is pooling together? I might have missed that.
Yep. So it is my money that the team gets to choose to direct.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
This person has $300 to direct, and they can choose where they want it to go. They can split it between causes, etc. But when you do that, it changes it from being, because like you'll see like, oh, Amazon donated, $1 million to this charity. That's cool. So then at that point you say, I work for a charitable company. But when Stephanie gets to say, I want my $300 to go to dogs in the neighborhood, then it's, I'm a charitable person because I work for this company.
Yeah.
And there's a big distinction there. And that's,
Is there-
and here's the thing, all of the reasons why people want to make tons of money is because they want to be able to invest in real estate, to be able to retire off of real estate someday, and someday be able to, you know, when you ask, and granted, you know, the people that I hire have similar core values to me. So when you ask people at the start, hey, why do you want to be rich someday? They say, I want to be able to retire off of real estate, and I want to be able to really like give back, right? So I say, great. This is the more I learn about life, the more I realize that life is less about waiting for retirement and trying to build for retirement, and more about building the life that you want right now today. So this kind of lines up with that philosophy. Great, you want to buy real estate and be able to make passive income off of real estate, and you want to be charitable. Good news. You don't need to wait till retirement. Let's just do those right now.
Yeah. Do you have veto power on if they choose something that's like totally against your
I do.
values or whatever? Okay.
I do. Yep.
Yeah.
So like,
Okay.
and I try to keep
Yeah.
politics out of it too. If they say, hey,
Yeah.
I want to donate to the Democratic National Party or Planned Parenthood or the NRA or, you know, the Republican Party, either side, I say that's not for this.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
welcome to donate their own funds to that, but I keep politics out of it.
Okay, I got another question, a different topic. When you were talking about giving people raises and all that kind of stuff, if you've got an acquisitions person that's you know commissioned on commission, maybe a base salary, do those people usually stay the same, or do you raise their commission percentage, or how? I don't know how what's normal in a situation like that.
Great question. So that advice I would say has more to do with the hourly people than the
Okay.
commission people. So the commission people, I will have conversations with them, see where we're at, make sure they're okay, and look at it. But I don't change commission structure super often. Most of the time it's, hey, how do I figure out how to provide more opportunity for this person?
Yeah. Yep.
And the advantage is, you know, as a company in general, you're growing. I mean, my experience has been both with Investor Machine Creation, we're always growing, right? Quarter over quarter, year over year, we're growing. And so the opportunity is bigger. That said, if you're a TC, that doesn't necessarily, if you're a transaction coordinator, that doesn't necessarily mean you're making more.
Right. Okay,
Jason.
thank you.
Awesome, Brad. Rick,
Hi, buddy. Hey,
How are
I
you,
might
my
miss
friend?
it. How are you, sir?
good.
Good to be here. Thanks for doing this. I might have missed it, so I sincerely apologize because I came in late, but do you have a scalable commission schedule? And is that scalable commission schedule commensurate with the investments that the stock investments that you give to your team?
So I am flat on my commission, on the commission for my acquisition managers. I'm a solid 10%. And I just do the rental shares purely based off of what they brought in that quarter. So, so if they brought in 100 grand, they get 10,000 worth of that rental. Oh, one important thing with that rental too, it's also a retention plan. So if you leave me within 5 years, all of your shares come back to me. At 5 years, you get to keep 50%, 6 years, 60%, 7 years, 70%, 8 years, 80%, 9 years, 90%. At 10 years, you keep 100% of that. So the idea is, hey, if you work with me for more than 10 years, I will effectively retire you. Like you will be able to retire well. If you work less than that, no guarantees. It's not much different than, it's basically a pension through real estate instead of doing it like 401k. 401ks aren't designed for retention. 401ks are designed for being attractive for hiring. This plan is much more like a pension. And it's amazing how many people you talk, like, yeah, I hate my job at the post office. But that said, I got to stay 12 more years till I get my pension. So I want to do better than that and not have them hate it. But the idea of the longer I stay, the closer I get to my pension. Michael, do you have a question?
I just had a question regarding that. So the 10% that you give out, right, in shares, that's on top of the 10% that they get for the commission for bringing in the deal. So you're
Correct.
allocating 10% into this pool of which vests at certain rates at certain timeframes in their career with you.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's
And
cool.
I will say, if you choose to do this, one of the most important parts is you have to continue to remind your team that you're doing it and how it benefits them, because they will absolutely forget that it's there and forget that it's a benefit and not be clear on just, we get the power of, you know, compounding interest, real estate, etc. The team doesn't necessarily. So if you don't continually remind them on it, it's not going to feel real and it's not going to be motivating and you're just going to lose out.
And so how is the structure of that? Is that more of an LLC with multiple assets? And then
It's
you're
an
just,
LLC. Yep.
Okay.
LLC with asset shares. I put a property in. That property is worth 300,000. That means there's then 300 shares, 300,000 shares, and then a person gets a share all the way up. And then once I use up all of those 300,000 shares, I put another property in. Now there's 600,000 total shares in there, and more shares to be given
and
away.
then as that property appreciates and more people tap into those shares, do you take the current market value of that property when you're just
So
doing it?
the great question. So it's when it moves in is how many shares it is. So Utah's been pretty crazy appreciating. I moved that house in at 300,000 value because that's what it appraised at then. It's worth 400 now. But that's all appreciation that everybody that owned that property got to gain.
That's
So
saying
there's not
that-
more shares at that point. That's part of what they made from this, is now their 300,000 is worth 400,000 by percent.
If you
Got it.
issue more shares because the value went up, it would dilute everybody.
Right. And then there would be no actual advantage to this whole thing.
No, of
Because
course,
the
of course.
purpose is they're supposed to get the appreciation. Because I'm in Utah, right? I'm not in, I'm trying to think if I've got somebody, I'm not in Jacksonville where Brad is, right? That's a rental spot where you can get good cash flow. We don't do cash flow in Utah particularly well. We do appreciation, except for right now. Right now we do depreciation. But long term, we do appreciation.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Cool. So I'm glad I asked, because we wound up going deep enough into this one that I'm just going to do a quick summary of data. So essentially that's going to turn into so my data presentation was built around the compound effect and how to start something simple and get it bigger and better every single time. So the idea of, hey, here's how I work through and improve something all along the way. Because I have got 7 minutes, I am just going to do a 7-minute, hey, really quick, in case you're interested, this is what we do here at Investor Machine. In which case, I will excuse Brad and Alan and Ken and Kirk and Dan. And I know I've got a bunch of Investor Machine members on here anyways. If you guys don't want to hear, hey, here's what we do at Investor Machine, because you're already paying for it and getting the benefits, I will not be offended if you bail. I basically, Stephanie wanted me to talk about data. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Basically, here's what we do at Investor Machine. It's stuff that you can take and do a lot of on your own if you're up for the work, or if you're interested in what we do, that's what I'm going to do from here. You okay with that, Stephanie? Okay, sounds good. All right, so let me scroll back up. My mail journey started super basic, simple. I put my cell phone number on the card. I pulled an absentee list from ListSource. I had no CRM, and I sent the mail because I was all in on drinking my Tom Kroll, taking massive imperfect action. Learn some lessons. Cell numbers on postcards, not a good idea. Good to have a CRM, preferably left main if you're smart, to track all of this stuff and get better and better from there. So year over year, I got better and better at doing mail, as well as building lists. One thing that I learned is that lists are the best lists are the ones that you get directly from the source. When I started really looking into the motivation points that I was getting from PropStream and that I was getting from ListSource and everywhere else, when I actually looked at the notice of defaults as an example, I found out that like 90+% of all of the notice of defaults in there had already been foreclosed on or had been cleared up. Because the data runs 6 months to a year behind, but the motivation is happening much earlier on when it's happening. So I hired, one thing that I have always loved is virtual assistants. So I hired virtual assistants to go and actually pull lists directly from the source at the courthouse, at the county, etc. So this is just, am I still sharing screen?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, so this is a list of some of the lists that I went and pulled individually. So divorces, pulling them as they're happening, estate sales, evictions, felonies, HOA liens, refi applications denied, probates, going and looking at specific obituaries, tax delinquents, etc. So that was awesome. And it definitely worked well, but I ran into problems of scalability with it. So what I added next is a way to rank every property in a county by order of my preference. So one of the downsides to something like PropStream is I would say, okay, do I want older than 2000 or newer than 2000? I either want it all or I want it none, right? Like if I want a year built, not 2000 and older, it means that I'm not mailing the newer than 2000 period. Same thing with like zip codes. I either want the zip code or I don't. So what, and I wasn't comparing any of those things against each other. So what happens if, so what, the way we do it now is we take and look at every different aspect of a property and we score it on a scale of 0 to 5. 0 is, I don't want this at all. 5 is, this is perfect. So this zip code is perfect. It's a 5. It's owned free and clear from LTV. That's perfect. It's a 5. You know, it's a 1,600 square feet home that's worth 150,000. All of these things are 5s. But then along the way, you can put 4s, 3s, 2s, 1s, etc. And what it does is that sorts every address in your entire county from this is who I'd want to market to first to this is how I'd want to market to last from the individual type of property standpoint. From there, we layer in all the motivation points, the ones that we pulled online and the ones that the virtual assistants pulled directly from the source. You put those things together and you have, this is who I should market to first to this is who I should market to last. Solves a ton of problems. I love it because it's looking at everything and then just putting in order who you'd want to market to. It's super intuitive. There's no like black box secret sauce. Don't worry, this list works. Just trust me. It's like, oh, this is the things that I like the most, plus the motivation points. And the thing I love about it too is it's super scalable. When mail works, you know, and so we do both mail as well as we will give people the list skip traced. So you can skip trace it, you can call it, you can text it, etc., or we do the direct mail. So if I want to spend another $10,000 on mail, I know exactly who I'm going to hit next. Where back in the day, it was like, oh, I want to spend another 5,000, 10,000 in mail. I've already pulled this list and this list. Which list should I pull next? How do I know it's not going to be duplicated? All of that. So this is kind of what the preferences page looks like. You know, each zip code is ranked differently, each type of property, type of owner, LTV, etc. And then this is what it winds up looking like when it's done. This is how many of each type of motivation point showed up on the list. This is how many showed up in each of the zip codes, as well as each of the owner types, property ages, how many motivation points, etc. So we look at all of this before we send out the mail, because we go make some guesses and fill some stuff out. And then we take a look at this and say, okay, this is the list we're going to mail. Does this look good? Is this who we want to go hit? And then we send it out and we either rock it, or if we're off, we come through and we make some adjustments. It means it just wasn't pointed exactly the right way. And the cool part is too, this allows us to really go deep with some people as well. This was a house in Ogden, unknown equity, had an IRS lien, probate, tax delinquent. It showed up on a driving for dollars list, which I don't do an investor machine, is absentee and senior. So all of that combined, we know like, hey, this person's going to know my name. For better or worse, they're going to know my name. They're either going to love me or they're going to hate me. And then we've been able to grow Investor Machine from there, 180 customers, including a bunch of people on the meeting. I partnered with Mike Hambright on it. And we do all sorts of other cool stuff. Like on your creative, we can do this. So right here, it says we specialize in removing headaches, vacant homes, challenging tenants, and fast closings. The reason that postcard says this is because this person is a vacant absentee owner. If they were a probate, we would coincidentally specialize in probate and things like that. See, this one is fair offers, challenging tenants, non-refundable earnest money, and all of this happens behind the scenes. We run the mail for people. It's done entirely behind the scenes. We send people the record. If they sign up for our Hot Sheets program, we send them the records that our VAs individually pulled last week, this week. We handle the non-deliverable for everybody as well. And we've got all sorts of cool stuff coming into the future, because at this point, we're sending out millions of pieces of mail every month, which is giving us tons of data back for us to be able to learn, grow, and improve. The collective works much better than the individual because we're taking and looking at all of it. And we're even working on some cool integrations with Stephanie and Left Main. So that's what I've got for a quick version on data. If you're looking to learn more on that, go to theinvestmachine.com. So that's what I've got, everybody.
Rapid fire. Woo! Blew my hair
Yes,
back.
I flew through. I knew that I was going to go deep on one and rapid fire the other, but we had said data and operations. So that was why I asked everybody at the start, do you want deeper on data or deeper on operations?
Yeah, love it. Thank you so much, Jason. I know a lot of that stuff, I think, big takeaways for people who are already doing mail. And I love that you have an option of just be able to do it for you, so very exciting.
Cool. Good to see everybody. Hope you all have a fabulous week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
Yep.
Bye.
See you. Bye.